How do you sort of feel about the state of movies at the moment, Hollywood? You know?
I just think they've honed on to this idea that superhero movies are just, they're it now, basically. And it's very disappointing because there's just so many good stories out there that, that need to be told, and they're more interesting than seeing someone, try and save the day, fail, and then come back and then save the day. Like, it's just the same story every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I find it so boring now. Like,
yeah.
Like there's no, like I think back to all these different eras of filmmaking in Hollywood, and like, you had like the Hollywood New Wave in the late 60s and 70s, and incredible films by, with Jack Nicholson and Roman Polanski and Francis Ford Coppola. And I think about all those films which were made in that era, or even in the blockbuster era, like in the 80s when things were super fun. Like there was never a more fun time to watch movies, in the 80s into the 90s. And you'd never get that. You'd never get those films made these days.
No, yeah, they just don't get a chance anymore because it's I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about like what Hollywood decides on or anything, but I just know that it's just the same sort of thing coming out. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming out in the TV genre these days, I think, especially like HBO in particular is one sort of channel that I follow like quite rigorously because their content is always, I don't know, it's really, really like, it's really full of drama and like, I don't know. I just think they do that really well. It's really well written. The characters are always really well written.
I feel like even TV's past its peak now.
Yeah, well, it's getting to that point because they're trying to make sequels of things that have done well, and it's just a money grab.
Well, Netflix wants everyone, right?
Yes, yeah.
Whereas when HBO came in and were making shows like The Sopranos, Oz before that. Yeah. The idea was to make something which just stood out and was prestige, and people would stay to watch those shows. And Netflix took that model, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like now it's
I think
they're like the Walmart of streaming
honestly,
services.
They are. Yeah. They just buy up everything, and I feel like now they have their own imprint on the actual end process, like of what. So they're obviously controlling, because they obviously have so much money and they can control whatever they want, but they have control over the process when the creative should have control over the process. And I think that's the problem that we're seeing. There's too many of the people in control of the studios having their say when they're not the creative ones. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think about now Disney's got its streaming service. Like, it's just this beast, and it's Star Wars, it's remakes of Disney IP, and or it's Marvel. And that's kind of it these days.
I know. And it's someone was telling me, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but they were saying that Disney's decided to make this idea where they make a remake every 10 years of the same film. And I'm not sure if that's true, but like, why?
Because you got a new audience coming through. You got new kids that are coming through. Like you can make another Aladdin or something.
It's just so disappointing. Yeah.
I want to see Nomadland.
I've seen it.
Oh,
good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Because I feel like that's such a breath of fresh air. Like
it was.
That's the sort of films that used to be made.
Yeah. There's a dialogue scene at the end of that. I'm not sure who the actor was. It wasn't
Frances.
It wasn't her, but someone she was talking to is this old man, and he tells this story about how his son took his own life, and it just, I was in tears. Like, it's just so like gut wrenching, and I haven't seen a movie where I've proper been like full on waterworks in a while, and it was awesome. Yeah,
that's. I was watching a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff around how that was shot with the cinematographer. And it's very talk about indie. You know, like a lot of natural light, handheld.
Awesome.
Very much. Very indie. Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat because it was so like you're saying, it was in the way that it was shot. It shone through you could definitely tell that it wasn't like the typical way of how these other movies were saying are shot. It's like, it has its own sort of spark that you immediately like draws you in. Yeah. And obviously the acting is phenomenal and all that kind of stuff. But it was really sort of a fresh take on it, and it was no surprise that she won, best film. Yeah.
I wonder where everything's headed, like in terms of filmmaking, because like I think back to, I guess as long as superhero films are profitable, they'll just keep making them. But it makes me think back to again, just before Hollywood New Wave. Like I'm a big fan of that era, right?
Yeah.
And a film like Easy Rider could only really be made because of all these massive Hollywood films which failed. Like I think Cleopatra, or I think maybe that was the last of that era of big Hollywood films in the 50s, or maybe early 60s. I'm not sure. Must have been the 60s, because it lost so much. I think the story was that it lost so much money that it kind of killed the old studio model, or some of these big films were losing money. So that Hollywood had to capture these new the new audience, this new generation, and so that's why a film like Easy Rider was able to be made and made money, because that generation wanted to watch films for them. And Graduate and some of these other films at that time. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I guess my what I'm wondering is, like, is there a point where this younger generation finally gets sick of these superhero films?
I hope so. Yeah.
They seem so popular, but I don't know.
I know. Like, there's a few people I talk to at work who just can't get enough, and they just want more. And I try and explain to them, it's essentially the same thing, just different characters. And I don't know, it's hard to tell these people because I think they like the explosions, they like the fight scenes, and they like it's just, I don't know. They're
so shit. People were getting excited about the Snyder cut, and and I just think, but all his other films are really bad. So who gives a shit?
I watched Army of the Dead, his most recent one, and I don't know, it's just so poorly written. It's just such a Hollywood production.
Zack Snyder's films make for the best trailers.
I
love his trailers. I'm a big fan.
Same.
I watched the trailer to 300 about 50 times, and then I watched the film. It's the same with The Watchmen. I love that trailer. Whoever cuts those trailers is amazing. And Army of the Dead looks really good again. So it's probably I got to check out that trailer.
The trailer's good. I watched the trailer before I watched the movie mistakenly. I have a rule where now I don't watch the trailers to the movie, so I keep it fresh, going in fresh. So it doesn't ruin anything, because I find that these days the trailers show all the good stuff. You know what I mean? And it kind of you walk in and you're like, well, I've seen that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So it's kind of ruins it. So I made a rule that I just don't watch trailers. It's very hard for some of the films that you do want to see really badly, but you just got to stick to it.
But that's all you need to watch. Just watch the trailers. Because it'll be too disappointing to watch the film.
Yeah.
Know that the ride or die. I keep boys by my seat. Know that the ride or die. I keep boys by my seat. We hustle, boys by my seat. Know that the ride or die. name came up a lot, it sounds more when I was not around. Certain people that I